Well, 2023 was marked by the fastest rise in interest rates in 3 decades, and this year will reveal just how hard the economy's landing will be. Joining me now live is Chief Investment Officer at the Motley, Scott Phillips. Scott, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I know you're not one to make predictions, but are we in for more rate rises, do you think, this year?
Danica, good afternoon. I love the way you phrase that. You're not going to make a prediction, but give me one, won't you? And I'll do my best to not give you a prediction, but still give you an answer. So let's see how we go, and you can keep me honest, mate. Look, here's the thing: the economy is still growing very, very weakly. The last GDP numbers were only plus 0.2%, and that was the September quarter. We, of course, haven't yet seen the December quarter GDP numbers. Unemployment is on the rise. Retail sales, the last set of numbers we got, retail sales were down in every single category year on year, with the exception of food. Now, you roll all that together, put in, of course, inflation at 4.9% on a quarterly basis. It's a rough set of numbers. Good news, of course, inflation is up, but only by a touch. And at the moment, at least, it seems like the economy is just managing to keep inching forward. In that environment, the Reserve's got to decide next month what to do with rates. I got to say, mate, petrol prices, by the way, also down 14% in the last month. I hope, frankly, I don't know what they'll do. No one knows. That's the prediction bit. I hope they don't have to feel like they have to have to increase rates. I was trying to say rise rates and rate rises at the same time. Hopefully rates don't have to go up in February. Hopefully they can sit pat. If they do, I think it's a reasonable bet. Let's talk about betting rather than predicting. Reasonable bet that we won't see more rate rises, or even if we do see one in February, that really should be the last, unless the data is really, really awful. So that's the most likely outcome. Not a prediction, but that's the most likely scenario. And then if you think about what that means, what we're really saying is the RBA feels like they've done enough on inflation. If that's the case and inflation keeps falling, they're going to turn pretty quickly then to, hang on, how weak is the economy? And when do we start to need to remove some of that contractionary policy, not even just stimulating, just removing the contractions out of the economy? Remembering, of course, the government has done absolutely nothing, but either the current or the past government, by the way, so this is not a party political view. They've done absolutely nothing to help the RBA. The Reserve has had to do all the work by itself. As we hit the other side of this, potentially we will see rate cuts. The other thing to think about is the stage 3 tax cuts that are due in July will be stimulatory for the economy. So the Reserve is also going to have to think about, on one hand, how much do we take out of the economy, how much is being put into the economy by those tax cuts, assuming they do go ahead, which is most likely at this point, and then try and work out where to from here. So I don't know if I've given you a good enough answer. That's not a prediction, but I think the probabilities are one more rate rise at most. I would almost hope, I think it's, I don't know about the odds, probably even chance now of no rate rise in Feb. And hopefully we start to see some cuts, maybe second half of this year now, maybe the fourth quarter.
Yeah, OK. Well, we will certainly be hoping for some rate cuts. Remains to be seen. What are the implications, do you think, from the ongoing tensions in the Middle East? Will that have an effect here in Australia?
Yeah, not yet, but very possibly. And this is why this is such a difficult time for this to be happening. We saw the oil price spike initially on the initial terrorist attacks and Israeli response. We're now seeing, of course, the piracy that we're trying to deal with. Freight costs are going up again. They spiked, of course, as we know, at the end of the pandemic, as freight tried to get back to normal. We had the wrong containers in the wrong places. We couldn't get goods to the right places. We saw freight prices spike hugely. They've come down really significantly until just recently. Maersk saying it'll cost them a small fortune to continue shipping through that part of the world. But of course, if they don't do that and have to go around Africa instead, it's much more expensive and takes a lot longer. So yeah, there's very, very probable that freight prices go up in the short to medium term. The big one, of course, that we're watching out for is the oil price. And thus far, the conflict, as awful as it is, hasn't had a financial toll. Of course, the human toll is always more important, but no financial toll just yet. The oil prices behave reasonably. Just talked about the fact that the petrol price, had fallen 14% over the last month. So if you kind of roll all that together, it is one of those watching brief kind of situations. Right now, I think we're probably luckier than we would have assumed, at least, again, on a financial basis only, to have not seen a bigger impact on financial markets. But it does remain to be seen if this escalates, if it simply continues. Or, of course, the worst-case scenario would be if it becomes a broader regional war, which then all bets would be off in terms of the oil supply and the oil price.
Yeah, OK. Well, it's certainly frightening what's happening now, so it remains to be seen. Scott Phillips, lovely to speak with you as always. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Danica.